Good evening on Fellowship Day 202, 202, a palindrome of a day for all the geeks out there. On this Fellowship Day 202, I almost said 102, did you notice that? Anyway, on day 202, I've had several communications with supporters of our research, collaborators, potential collaborators, that brings me in a way full circle back to the very beginning of this podcast, the very start of my fellowship, when I was wondering about when I had ever applied for it, how long the process was, what it took to bring collaborators and industry support together. And now that the fellowship itself has started, the research and the team, the work is all maturing, it's brought about the excuse to deepen the engagement with some collaborators, to re-explore old ground, make sure we're all still on the same page as to why those collaborations were ever brought about in the first place. But here is the theme for today, the thing that has smacked me in the face through today's communications, and that is the times are always a-changing. What do I mean by that? The people that you speak to set up a collaboration might not be there by the time you get to press go, by the time you get to press play on anything that you ever discussed, anything that you ever agreed to collaborate on, such as the timelines for funding applications, fellowships, and a lot of the standard mechanisms to run scientific projects, at least within academia, that it could be 6 months, 1 year, 2 years between you putting pen to paper and agreeing a collaboration and actually getting the time, funding, resource to do anything with those ideas. It's not always the case, but such is the prevalence of that way of working that it can be very easy to slip into the mindset of not doing anything to prove a project until you get the permission in the form of new funding. But some of those extraneous details aside, the times are always a-changing, and I've found out the hard way on several occasions that the people who were massively supportive of our research, people who got it, people who were the champions in order to set up new collaborations and help take the work that we are doing to broader impact, new and exciting heights, have just disappeared. They've, to their eternal credit, gone on to pastures new positions, new promotions, new career paths, and certainly within the past year or so, amidst the pandemic, all of us have had the chance to reflect on what we want our life and careers to be, having spent so much time at home. And so I find myself now looking at the challenge of balancing the collaborations that are pretty much as they were when they were established a few years ago, working with those collaborations for which the pull of our technology towards their application still holds, still strong, still there, without much thought from additional thought needed from the basis on which it was all set up. Balancing that with the other cases where things are just completely unrecognisable from when it was all set up. The people have changed. The appetite for the research in those applications might not be there anymore. The turnaround on both sides of these collaborations, and I count myself in this, has been such that it almost feels like starting again. And I've said in the past, and hopefully as a way to bring today's theme to some sort of meaningful conclusion, that these collaborations actually taking the opportunities when they're presented, making them actionable, turning ideas into action, walking the walk as well as talking the talk. You can distill this down into the following. It's not about striking while the iron is hot. It's about striking while there's an iron there to strike at all. I struck those irons at the outset of my fellowship bids, and some of those irons are still in the fire, but in some cases there are no irons left in the fire. They've been retired, they've gone on to other applications. They might even have run so far as to avoid the increasing cringeworthiness of this stretched analogy, but hopefully you get what I mean. Strike not while the iron's hot, but while there's an iron there to strike. The times are always a-changing. People are always moving on. Don't assume that the exciting collaboration that you set up one day will be there in the same form, existing and ready to go the next day. Times are always a-changing, and you need to move with them. Strike while there's an iron there to strike, not simply when the iron's hot. So how could you use that thought to take your collaborations to the next level while there's still a collaboration to speak about? Hope you're having a great day. Thanks again for listening to this little podcast of mine. We'll see you again for another episode of this here Read Indeed podcast. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, head over to the website where not only will you find the written blog versions of these podcasts, you'll find my leadership blog series, the daily thought series, and information about my book on managing the imposter phenomenon. We also have even more free resources and webinars linked to the YouTube channel. So head on over to dr-mark-reid.com. That's dr-mark with a C -reid.com